For my third and final collaboration this semester, I worked with Aaron Wertz, rather known as Cutter J the Absurdist. He is known around Wichita for his unique and constantly evolving electronic music performance art show. He uses the format of a DJ show as a theatrical experience. In our initial meeting, he explained how it is possible to manipulate 2 clips of video footage at a time. In our first of hopefully many collaborations, I want to experiment and play with what kind of dance footage I need to create in order to have it manipulated live later and achieve the desired effect that we want. Meaning, how do the possibilities and limitations of Aaron's equipment dictate how I have to approach the creation of movement phrases? Then we must also discuss how he goes about choreographing his live manipulations. I am also extremely interested in playing with how we can lace our video manipulation work with the tap work he does with the vocoder, a device that causes his feet to determine the rhythm and tempo of the pitches that are heard. As far as capturing initial footage, we discovered that margins are so important. This project has finally presented the importance of this to me in a concrete way. If the margins of the initial footage are not tended to down to the centimeter, then it does not line up correctly later. As Aaron and I were deciding what transitions to use, such as horizontal wide, the vertical push slide, and/or rotate, I realized I was tending to the steps between the steps, not the steps themselves. This was huge for me. The steps between the steps dictate the steps. I always focus on the steps, the pictures made. I need to focus more on creating and intending what happens in between. I usually look at that as a separate layer as opposed to part of the creation process. Impetus as opposed to afterthought. Even the timing and quality of Aaron's finger on the MIDI board has to be choreographed. How a movement begins and finally dissipates and comes to an end became incredibly apparent. Basically, all the details became the content, as opposed to content containing details. Margins don't just have to separate or end something, they can connect, such as the Brady Bunch squares. The margins of the initial shot bled together to form a Busby Berkeley-like picture, connecting all the limbs through the margins. We were able to fragment not only body parts, but rhythms that were all part of the whole, such as I had a full shot of Aaron pressing away from the pole, with hundreds of tiny Amy hands flicking off the pole. It was such a lovely contrast of different qualities happening simultaneously. For our second meeting, we wanted to focus on playing with tap shoes, the vocoder, and investigating specific manipulations that may or may not affect genre. Therefore, we filmed clips of us tapping on a piece of plywood and then played with manipulating the timing of our steps. We also filmed a traditional jazz phrase and balletic phrase in order to apply manipulations to investigate what specifically affects genre and what could be possible identifiers of genre. My natural use of timing in the tap phrases was very predictable. I felt the need to keep things simple because we are still trying to figure out exactly how to film a sequence so it is at its best for later manipulation. However, when we first tried to put the 2 sequences together, our timing was not perfect, a tempo miscalculation on my part, or maybe a beautiful mistake. My natural instinct is to come in every 2 counts, but footage kept syncing up a half a count off, and it turned out to be incredibly interesting. I discovered I can push my timing boundaries so much further, to very unsafe places where they might even fall apart, but then I really have the audience holding on to every step and every sound. As Aaron manipulated a riffle step and repeated it in numerous rhythmic patterns, I realized I have been thinking of fragmenting my body, but not further transferring this concept to tap. Once again, in tap, I can fragment certain rhythms that are part of the whole in order to draw focus to those rhythms.
Moving it faster and faster and faster.
I am becoming extremely fixated on what is not seen, taking things away, subtracting, silence, stillness, all the things I do not do naturally. Aaron used the fade button during a grid sequence that would make my body disappear for a bit, and then his body would disappear for a bit, or the two would replace each other. The absence of something is so powerful. When investigating genre, we discovered that when he manipulated my legs in a rapid manner in my traditional jazz phrase, it almost took on a tap quality to me. When he manipulated my preparatory movement into a move in a rapid manner, it took on a hip-hop quality. In the ballet phrase, when he rapidly manipulated my torso, it also took on a hip-hop quality. I found so many new possibilities for movement when he manipulated me backwards, because obviously I do not move backwards, but it was so much more interesting. Therefore, I decided that in this experiment, it is the quality of movement, speed of movement, and articulation of the torso that defined genre for me. In the future, Aaron and I would love to create an interactive component with this. Therefore, our last meeting consisted of using the simple footage we have taken and finding ways to have a live dance dialogue with the footage that Aaron is manipulating live. We made countless discoveries about possible approaches to interactivity between manipulated footage and live movement, such as total collaboration must be sought and achieved, meaning the initial filming, live manipulation, and live movement phrases cannot exist without each other. They are inseparable. Also, external versus internal dialogue became concrete for me in this project. When the live person and the person in the footage are the same, then the manipulations incite an inner dialogue. When the live person and the person in the footage are two different people, the manipulations incite an external dialogue. I also wonder how this newfound rule can be broken. Our future collaborative methods and ideas include: a live performer could possibly be kicking, punching, jabbing, etc. The manipulated footage. This creates a dialogue between the live performer and the virtual performer. We want to explore the use of shadows and how shadows can be a tool to achieve fragmentation. We want to explore the use of margins with real people dictating the actual frame that the audience sees. This is a huge correlation to the dance on camera work I am doing in examining practice right now. Three-dimensional aspects can be explored. We noticed that this effect was created when the manipulated dancer seemed to pass between the real arm and the shadow of the arm that was being supplied by the live performer. Basically, we realized that our brains were on fire and decided to focus solely on possible approaches to creating a rhythm experience, complete with tap, electronic music, and visual projections. Most of our methods were built off of how the creator, performer, and spectator are all able to have an emergent experience in creation, rehearsal, and performance processes.